Hello, Brad Smith from The Way. Hopefully everybody is doing well today. Happy whatever day of the coronavirus quarantine that it is. I've lost track a little bit of the days. They do kind of bleed into one another. We're a homeschool family, so it's really kind of been business as usual for us. But I know for many families this has been a major disruption. It's a serious thing. People are dying, and the death rate continues to go up, at least here in the United States, or the number of people who perish every day. However, I did see some new models today in the news where they're predicting they've amended their estimations to be lower. They're predicting that the peak will happen around the middle of April, and then we'll start to taper off a little bit. However, those models change all the time, and we'll just see how it goes. I think one of the most troubling aspects of the coronavirus for many is the loss of control. Because let's face it, control is a major issue for people. People like to be the captains of their own destiny. People like to call the shots. People like to be in charge. They want to pull the strings, make things happen. And with coronavirus, what's so unsettling about it is it seems like we have lost control. You know, you have the smartest people on the planet, the smartest people on Earth, collaborating as if as they've never collaborated before in trying to find a vaccine or trying to find a cure or a better treatment, and so far have been unable to. You have the most powerful nations on Earth collaborating to slow the spread of this thing, and so far it mixed signals as whether or not that is working or not. And what you have is what seems to be a loss of control. You know, people are really unsettled by the fact that it doesn't seem like we can control this thing. No matter how hard we try, the virus just does what the virus does. And that's troubling. It's troubling for people. And so again, control is an issue. Now, the gospel message is the most offensive message that there is and ever has been. And one of the reasons that the gospel message is so offensive is because it forces you to relinquish control. It's offensive for a couple of other reasons. One of the reasons it's offensive is that the gospel message tells us that at our core we are sinners, that at our core that we were conceived in iniquity, that at our core we're just not good people. Even our very hearts are wicked. And a lot of people don't like that because we've been telling ourselves since we were young how good and wonderful we are. Our parents tell us how great we are. And so to hear that there's something wrong with us is a little troubling for some people, for a lot of people. But the other issue that troubles people is the relinquishment of control. The understanding and the acknowledgement that I am absolutely powerless before a holy and righteous God. I'm powerless to change my condition in any way. That I cannot earn the favor of God. I cannot earn merit before God. You've heard it said, God helps those who help themselves. That is an intensely unbiblical idea. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that. A more accurate thing to say would be that God helps those who are helpless when they're helpless. And so what we see in the gospel message is we see an absolute relinquishment of control with regard to salvation. And people are unsettled by that. People are troubled by the relinquishment of control. And so we've invented ways. We've attempted to soften the gospel message as a means for us to retain at least a measure of control. You know, we'll say things like, well, Jesus is just knocking at the door of our hearts, but I have to open the door to my heart. Or I'm drowning and Jesus throws me a life preserver, but I just have to grab it. Or Jesus does 99.9% of the work. I just have to do a little bit. But really, these are all attempts for us to retain a shred of control, because what the gospel message says is that God saves sinners, that salvation belongs to God, that even now there are saints in heaven proclaiming salvation belongs to God, and they're proclaiming that to God, that it is God who decides when, that it is God who decides even who And this is troubling for us because it is an absolute relinquishment of control to God of something that's very important to us, our salvation. And so control is definitely an issue, and the gospel message forces us, the real gospel message forces us to acknowledge that we have no control. So this Sunday, and we see that throughout Scripture, this Sunday at the Way, we're going to continue our study through Genesis foundations. We're going to be in Genesis chapter 12 as we switch to kind of global creation type events into the story of the patriarchs, Abraham and his offspring and the founding of the Jewish nation. And that dominates the book of Genesis. 39 of the 50 chapters in the book of Genesis are about the patriarchs. But what we see this week in Genesis chapter 12, we see the first installment of the Abrahamic covenant, where God goes to Abram and makes a covenant with him. And the language is telling, because over and over God says, I will, I will, I will. He doesn't say, hey, Abraham, I need you to do this, or Abraham, you've got to do this. I'm going to do this, but you've got to do this. No, God declares what he will do and says, this is what I'm going to do, and then he does it. He says, I will make you a great nation, Abraham. He does it. He says, I will make your name great, and he does it. He says, I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you, and he does it. And he says, and by you, through me, all the families of the earth will be blessed. And he does it. God says, I will. So, hey, control is an issue for us. And so maybe in this coronavirus pandemic, God is teaching us, reminding us that control is but an illusion, and that he is the one who ultimately is in control. May we surrender and yield to that today. Have a blessed rest of your week. Hey, if you're in Clarksville, or anywhere, I guess, since we're virtual now, tune in this Sunday. We'll live stream on Facebook, 9:30 at The Way TN. Otherwise, tune into your home church. Lots of great churches doing lots of great things out there to try to minister to us during these challenging times. So stay safe, keep your social distance, all that kind of stuff. God bless.